welcome to our LinkedIn live session. Today we are going to look at something very interesting. It is about reputation and authority. And before we get to the main topic, let us quickly go through our mission, vision, and our values. So, we enable brands and startups to resonate with their audiences affordably and efficiently. Our mission is to apply branding, digital e-commerce, and design capabilities so that startups and brands can develop world-class skills and abilities and meet their consumers' needs with affordability and excellence. Okay. What helps us achieve this is following our value system of integrity, honesty, cooperation, constant learning, and principled entrepreneurship, which help us deliver results. We start by doing the right thing even if nobody is watching. We depend on each other because this is a team. We develop ourselves and others by constantly staying updated and learning. We drive efforts like an entrepreneur. We take accountability for our actions and we learn from our mistakes. All of these help us deliver the results that we commit to our clients. Okay. Now, today we are going to look at what is reputation and what is authority. Okay, this is basically, if we sum it up, the difference between being seen and being trusted. Okay, and when we look at how brands operate, okay, every relationship in the world is built on trust. Okay, people buy from us when they trust us, people stick to us if they trust us. Okay, being seen is kind of laying down the foundation of that, but your efforts should not stop just with that. Okay, that is precisely what we are going to look at today's branding session. Okay, so first of all, you are visible. You have a website, you're running ads. When people Google, they see your brand's name. So you are definitely there. But are you believed? Because being seen and being trusted are two very, very different things. Okay. If a CEO or a procurement head is making the final call, okay, think along for B2B businesses. Okay, they are probably asking, do we actually trust these people? Okay, put yourself in their shoes. Let's say you have to make a purchase for your home. You want to understand first that, okay, are they worth this investment? Can I trust them to deliver on the quality and hold up their end of the bargain? That is exactly what is happening with your customers as well. Not only that, 88% of consumers say that trust is just as important as price and quality when it is choosing which brand to buy from. If you look at any brand, any sector, actually, you'll find that there is that one market leader. Okay, and people kind of buy from them on autopilot. Okay. So why is that? Why is that brand getting that kind of attention, that kind of loyalty when there are the market players visible? This is precisely where the trust factor comes in. Okay, and unfortunately, India's most visible brands are losing their pitches to more trusted ones today. Brands that are big names. Okay, with the coming generations, what we are seeing is that people are no longer satisfied just choosing what their parents used to choose. They're looking for more. They're looking at a lot of things when they are choosing a brand to buy from. Okay, and here trust makes a very, very big difference. Okay, so it's great that you are visible, but you have to go beyond that. You have to make your brand trustworthy.
Shruti, I just want to add here that a lot of people think that visibility is the most important thing. There's an age-old saying that "जो दिखता है वो बिकता है," right? So people believe that we have to be visible. Whatever visibility we get is great, and if we are visible, people will people will buy us, and that's what a lot of brands try to do. They try to increase their visibility. But with customer getting more and more educated, more and more mature, and also if you look at Gen Z, they do search a lot. They look for more and more information. Unless unless they trust a brand, unless they trust what they're selling, they don't want to buy it. And this is the generation which is starting, which is growing at a stage when there is information overload. Information is available from every nook and corner.
True.
So that's also changing their consumption pattern. There was a time when there was information gap, and that was a time when people used to believe that if I'm seeing the brand must be good. So companies were running ads on various platforms, and people were consuming that content, and then they were moving on. But today, it's no longer the case. A consumer today can actually question a brand, can review a brand, can hear what others have to say about a brand. So visibility no longer is enough, because people are going to check or look for what others have to say about it. So that's a getting being believed is a completely different ball game. Increasing visibility is easier. You put money and you get people will start to you become visible. Okay, but being believed is a completely different ball game. One more thing I want to add here is this, that this is a great situation for startup brands, because earlier what used to happen, to become visible you need to have deep pockets, but today that's no longer the case. Today a startup brand can build the right assets, have the right uh, messaging communication, which is trustworthy enough, and when they start to talk to their customers, once the customers see it and when they start to believe it, the the business starts to move. So you don't need to have deep pockets that you need to have earlier, and that is something is a great situation. And the and that's what is happening, that most visible brands of yesteryears, they continue to do what they were doing. They are not realizing that the market is evolving, market is changing, they need to do things differently, and they are catching up right now. They are doing a catch up game right now, because the way they were doing marketing earlier and the what is required today is very different. And that's why most
True.
visible brands are losing pitches, and new brands are coming in. There are a whole lot of new consumer brands that have come up, and they are challenging the status quo. They're dethroning the bigger competitor, and that is something which will going to continue to happen, unless the bigger players start to build a engine which will help them build trust among their customers. So that is something
True.
which is a trend, and it is a very complex trend. Actually, it's not a very simple trend. It's a very complex trend, and brand needs to change the way they were marketing, the way they are doing things.
True. Very true. It's a new world and you have to kind of catch up with it, because otherwise we are going to get left behind. Okay. And this is what we were saying. Being everywhere isn't the same as being trusted. Okay. 50% of consumers today say that they are more likely to buy from brands they recognize, and that means 50% aren't ready to buy from brands they recognize. I will give a very common example here. Look at India's largest bank. Okay, it is the bank which is like which has everybody's accounts. Okay, but you go and ask people around, everyone probably has a negative experience to share there. Okay, now this is precisely the white space in which other brands have built up their presence. Okay, there are a lot of things that a leading brand or a brand which is very big or has a lot of visibility, it has a lot of advantages, but trust actually gives that kind of space for other challengers to come in. Okay, like Avinash said, this is a very good era for startups. If you follow this, if you try to build your trust among audiences, you can actually go a long way. Okay. See, because being on the consideration list, that is what gets you on the consideration list, and being chosen, it depends on whether the buyer trusts your judgment and not just your name. Okay, you may be a big brand, but what exactly do you do? What is your track record? Whatever promises you make, do you actually deliver on them? What are other people talking about when they talk about you? All of these things matter. Okay? And high visibility unfortunately masks this deficit very efficiently for a lot of brands. Okay, and the problem is that with high visibility a lot of brands actually become very complacent. They think that okay, fine, we have made it and people know us, people are looking at us, and that is going to get us their money. It doesn't work like that, because if you fall into this trap, your business is going to decline. Okay? You cannot take the audience for granted. You can no longer rely on outdated marketing principles. You have to make sure that you are delivering on your promises and you are building that trust and communicating your efforts in a very efficient manner. Okay?
Yeah. Shruti, one more thing here, I want to highlight here is that, when we talk about the 50% customers are more likely to buy from brands they recognize. And the reason is this that, if you go to a market and you see two brands, and one you have heard about, you'll end up buying it. But situation today is that it's not a two brand situation. Market is flooded with brands. There are so many brands out there. Everybody has their own story and things like that to share. So if you happen to to in a buying situation, you actually end up buying the brand you have seen before. But when you have multiple brands and more brands are coming in, that's no longer the case because customer might have seen multiple brands, and that's where the trust starts to become a bigger factor. And with customer having information overload and access to information like on their fingertips. It used to be, it has never been like that. Today information on fingertips. They see something, they Google it. They want to go somewhere, they just Google it, and now that information is on fingertips. That's why just being visible is no longer enough, because customer can just check it out. They can just ask a question to chat gpt or google ai and things like that, then they can figure it out. So trust is something which is going to be a bigger factor. And one more thing I want to say is that by being visible or being one of the brand which is known, you can you can get sale today, but tomorrow if there's another brand which is visible, they go to that brand. A day after tomorrow they go to a third brand, fourth brand. So there is no customer loyalty. No business can be built unless customer is loyalty, and loyalty is built with trust. So that's why a brand needs to focus on building trust, because if the customers start to trust you, then what they are going to do, they're going to keep buying you again and again. And a business is only built with repeat purchase. No business can be built by one time purchase. The businesses where customer buys once and never buy again, those business are doomed. So that is something which is a very very important thing, and that's why don't just think that you are visible. That's a great thing, and you will do the business. Yeah, once yes, twice yes, thrice. That's what will not happen. So please pay attention to that and build trust.
True. And I think the old school belief was that, kind of any publicity is good publicity. We have realized the hard way that that does not apply. So just because people are talking about you or you are becoming a hot topic of discussion doesn't really mean that you are garnering goodwill. So that is the difference that we always have to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Okay.
Shakti, look at the example of this CJP, Cockroach Janata Party. You know, they got more followers than Congress and BJP, and they were like, we will change things. We don't want to make it political, but the point is that look at their rallies, what's happening. Just being visible doesn't mean that people will start to trust you. So if you really want to make it big,
I think we are like a
yeah,
long, yeah. I believe that it is still a developing situation, so you never know. It's a very recent kind of development. So I think let us see how the cockroaches do, and we can like only advise our clients that whatever you are doing, have a clear plan in mind and make sure that whatever you are promising, you deliver on that. Okay. So now here is when we come to the difference between reputation and authority. Okay, reputation is basically what people are saying about you. Okay, it is reactive, built from what happens to you. You get a good review, people say wow, this is nice. You get a bad review, people will automatically be skeptical the next time they see you. The kind of press coverage you are getting, the kind of word of mouth you are publicity you are getting. So all of this is reactive. It only kind of affects people from whatever is happening to you. Okay, but authority is earned. Okay, you just cannot buy authority, you have to build it. Even if you kind of try to fake it, or you think that, see, you can always buy you can always buy ad space on a paper. Okay, you can pay a paper to actually carry your article, but whether people actually think that whatever you have written in that article is actually worth their while or not is something no amount of money can do. Okay, so you have to build that. Respect or authority is always earned. Okay, so whatever you're consistently demonstrating, whether it's a perspective, the depth of knowledge that you have, the track record that you have, all this comes into play. Okay, this is what creates your authority. Okay, and reputation gets you considered. You will be visible, people will know about you, so that is the first step. But you can always get rejected. Authority is actually the next step. Here, when you build up your authority, you have a chance of getting chosen. So this is why a lot of brands, they try to project that kind of authority, but not many succeed in doing that. What instead they end up doing is that they end up being everywhere, they end up being very loud instead of saying actually things that matter. Okay, so you should know the difference. And most Indian brands fall into the other category, in the sense they have built their reputation, but they probably have not built their authority. This is very true in case of a lot of new age brands, a lot of startups. Okay, if you just look at the beauty sector, for example, brands are mushrooming there every day. All of them have teamed up with influencers, all of them are running ads, all of them have very nice looking bottles and very pretty feeds and all. If you go to their Instagram, you'll see hundreds and thousands of people liking their products and all. Give them around 1 year or so, you'll find that they have just fizzled out. Why? Because they just could not earn that kind of authority. Okay, they haven't built that kind of intellectual and experiential credibility that makes a buyer think that these people actually know things I don't. On the other hand, these people can give me what I want. So that is where trust comes in. Okay, don't mistake the amount of publicity or likes or whatever you're getting for actual authority. That's a different ballgame altogether. And the problem with reputation is it is very fickle. One bad PR turn and your reputation may be in ruins. Okay, the biggest of companies, Coca-Cola, Nestle, BP, they have faced this. They are still very valuable company. But if you go and if you ask on the streets who are the brands that you don't trust, the two brands who actually topped this list of brands that we don't trust were Nestle and Coca-Cola. Okay, so that's a very different kind of things. 75% of global consumers say that they will continue buying from a brand they trust even if a competitor suddenly becomes hot or trendy. Okay, this is where loyalty comes in, and loyalty is something you just cannot cultivate on your own. You have to make sure that you are earning it. Now, if you want to if you want to build up your authority, first you have to know where do you stand. So the first stage, I believe, applies to a lot of startups and even a lot of small local businesses who have been there for time, but they kind of just exist. So there is kind of people don't know they exist, there is no recall, there's no consideration, they're starting from scratch. This is a brand that the buyers just don't know yet. Okay. Next comes the recognized brand. You have heard of them. There is some visibility, but that's it. Okay. Buyers kind of know you exist, but they don't care. Okay. They know that you probably sell this kind of products, but they don't know what makes you special. Then comes the third stage where you are reputable.
So they
So
just
you
want to
are
add.
earning trust in the market.
So they just want to add that the
Yeah.
stage two is the stage where this thing of दिखता है वो बिकता है kind of a thing exists. And market has believed on that philosophy for a very very long time, that let us just be visible and we will sell, and that's good enough. But this is what is changing. This is what is changing, and you need to start moving toward the stage five kind of a thing, and that's what we're talking about. Please continue, Shakti.
True. And see, this as Avinash said, this is the place where a lot of brands probably are, and where जो दिखता है वो बिकता है kind of takes hold. Then we come to the next stage, which also has a very popular kind of plateau. Okay, there is, you have accumulated some goodwill, you have some good reviews, you have some good press coverage, people are talking about you, so you are happy. Problem is, this is where you also get stuck. A lot of brands don't make an effort to go beyond that. Okay, and while this is fine, it will not help you become the market leader in your field. So think of where you want to be, because if you want to go there, you have to bring your brand to the trusted level. Okay, here people are actually preferring you. Okay, they are recommending you without being asked. You have cult brands which sit in this. Okay, they keep coming back, there is a relationship, it's not just a transaction. A very popular brand in this aspect you can think of is like Starbucks. Okay, so Starbucks is a very popular coffee brand. Okay, India may not that much, but if you go abroad, especially in US and all, it's a cult. People love that lifestyle. And if you ask them what is where do you get your coffee, the default answer almost always is Starbucks. Okay, so this is a good place to be, and there is something which you build up even more, because here you're not just gathering revenue and topping the market, you are actually shaping the category. Okay, 73% of B2B decision makers consider that thought leadership is extremely important, and it is a good indicator of trust than traditional marketing materials. Okay, just think of a brand like Amul Butter. Okay, nobody competes with them, because you cannot compete with Amul Butter. They define what butter is for Indians. Okay? So if you want to go there, you have to put in that kind of effort, and you have to do it strategically.
Yeah, I think Shakti, this is something which is very important because uh, with with the increasing fragmentation in the market and the world getting globalized more and more, so what's happening is that just because you are visible is not enough. People trust you is a great situation to be in, that your customer trust you and things like that. So they trust you for a transaction. They trust you for a transaction. But when, in case you are in a complex environment, which is like B2B businesses and things like that, that's where authority becomes very important. Because uh, because when a B2B buyer is buying something, then they want to see that you understand what you're talking about. You can walk the talk. Because a B2B buyer is not only buying a product or service, they're buying they're they're buying much more than that. They kind of want to
Yeah.
buy certainty. Okay, so they will see who you are, what you do, kind of a thing. They will do thorough due diligence. Okay, they will just not go by this, that you have got great reviews, or one of her, their known a player have bought from you. So that's why building authority is something very important. And by building authority, you are making the world a better place. And that is something which is very important, that you are constantly working on improving understanding of the market. You are sharing more knowledge. You are helping your customers uh, become better businesses themselves, and that's what everybody is looking for nowadays. And they do business with such kind of organizations.
True, very true. And this is where you need to understand what is the gap between your reputation and authority, because reputed brands still lose. Okay, being reputed means you're probably safe to consider. A lot of people are talking about you, so by kind of the law of average we can assume that okay, this is fine. Okay, but people still don't have to choose you, because unless you have authority, people are still wondering that are these people trustworthy enough? Do they understand our problem? Do they have a good solution to that? They will need authority. Okay, the real competitor here is buyer indecision. 60% of B2B deals, for example, they fall through because it is a non-decision stage. And I think almost all CEOs or all business owners who are watching this, they will identify with this. Okay, if people are actively choosing your competitor, that's a different thing. But in a lot of cases, people just cannot take that leap. And the reason for that is that they don't have a reason to trust you. And authoritative brands here score because they define the criteria, and for them trust is very, very high. Okay, here you can set the term. On the other hand, if you don't have authority, your buyer will set the term. Okay, and here you will actually spend your time trying to fit into their vision. Okay, which is okay. But then when you build an authoritative brand, you become an aspiration, and the buyer automatically wants to have you or wants to associate with you, because they think that associating with you actually makes them better. That is where authority lives. And the stuck kind of zone, which I said, the reputable zone, where people are kind of happy and they think that is all there is to it, this is where a lot of businesses get stuck, especially mid-size kind of businesses. You have good revenue, you have steady inquiries, some good clients, but you kind of cannot break through. Okay, so there is always this ceiling there. After some years, it will not be apparent immediately, but after some years, when you look at your business numbers, then you'll find that your brand is not growing the way it should. Okay, so this is where you need to pay attention. So how do you build that trust? Okay, there are some signals that you have to watch out for, and you have to make sure that you rise to that occasion. Number one, consistency in point of view. If you don't have anything original to say, if you don't have a stance, if you don't have a point of view, then your brand cannot be authoritative. This is something which I always repeat to our clients, and unfortunately a lot of clients just don't go in that. But if your brand does not stand for anything and just wants to play it safe and both sided and kind of stay in the safe zone, this is a boring, forgettable brand. A boring, forgettable brand cannot build authority. It has to stand for something. Okay, in the same vein, we are going to look for depth over volume. Lot of B2B decision makers, they find that thought leadership is more trustworthy. Okay, so it's okay that you are posting on LinkedIn for 3 days in a week, but those posts should matter. They should be of high quality. They should actually add value to the lives of people who are looking at it. They should give people some reason to keep reading. That is what we are talking about. Otherwise, what happens? You spam everybody with a lot of messages, but you will not make any headway. Third, be specific. A person who says that I know everything or I am an expert in a very broad field is actually a generalist. And while that has its own advantages, being a generalist kind of hinders your ability to become authoritative. Okay, the more specifically you can speak to a buyer's exact problem, the better. Okay, and you have to make sure that you're speaking in a way which is relatable, which they recognize immediately. Okay. Then validation is very very important from neutral or third parties. They will People will look for awards, your reviews, your press releases, your press mentions, peer mentions, client names, industry references. So all of these you have to collect. We talk to a lot of clients, and when we tell them that please get some testimonials, tell us the names of your clients, or at least give us the logos of your clients, the answer in a lot of cases is that, you know, isme time lagega, or we have to go, and maybe they will not say yes and all that is understandable. But you also have to understand this, that when you say that you cannot provide them, you are also leaving out a lot. Give your audience a reason to trust you. Put an effort. Okay, and very very importantly, proof that shows your thinking, not just the results. How did you arrive at this solution? That matters so much more. If you go to, you know, really big companies on LinkedIn, like for example Blackstone, okay, you will find them sitting together in an interview format, explaining in detail how do we work, what is our approach, how do we analyze a problem, how do we break it down, and everything. That is what you have to do as well. You have to look at detailed case studies that describe the problem, the diagnosis, the strategy, and the outcome. Okay, you cannot have a simple before and after for everything. Show how you have thought, show what strategy you made. Okay, because people trust people who share that knowledge, who demonstrate that. Okay, the more open you are with that, the more trustworthy your brand seems.
Shruti, I want to add that for most of the brands, all these things, they think that all these things are unnecessary, and many of these brands don't want to pay penny heed to it, because this is not a, they feel that this is an extra, but this is what actually matters to the buyer. Customer is no longer buying a product or a service. They are buying the thought. They are buying the idea behind what you do. That's why nowadays things like golden circle and all are becoming important for more and more and more and more brands, because brands people wants to buy from those brands whose thought, whose perspective matter to them, whose thoughts and perspective gel with their own thinking. If you want to buy a bread, you will buy a bread. But the point is this, that I would like to buy a bread from the company which speaks my language. It is that raw. And many times companies think that, hey, we have got a product, we have got money, we're putting the money on the table, we're running paid campaigns, and now it should sell. Yes, you will sell. Few things here and there you will sell, but you will not make money. You will not survive for long term, and that's the biggest danger. And so that is why doing these things is important. Is actually very important, and every brand must pay attention to them.
Absolutely, very true. And see, here I would like to point out, if you look at luxury lifestyle or fashion houses, okay, every year they release their collections, and it always comes with a brief about what is the thought of the campaign, what is the theme that they are going for, why are they doing this, what are the materials that they have chosen, what is this design depicting, and all. Now, for a lot of laymen, this may seem like unnecessary. I mean, it is all clothes and the styling, so that is all I'm looking at. But the thing is, when people buy, these things actually matter. They know their target audiences. That That sets the authority, that sets the trends for the season and the year. This is why they do it. They want to show their approach, they want to show their thinking. Because when the thinking is unique, the perspective that resonates with the audience, that is something which places the brand way above others. Okay, so these are important things you have to make an effort. Okay, and how do you analyze this gap? Okay, start with a simple question. Can you say what is your brand's point of view in one sentence? It cannot be your tagline or your mission statement. Okay, so what is it that your brand is about? If you ask anybody, they will probably just say that, okay, this is my product or this is my service, and probably you'll get a mission statement or not. But then that is not what a brand is. What is the problem that it is solving? What is the change that it wants to bring about? What is its purpose? It's much more. Okay, and secondly, look at your content. Is it just giving information or is it actually educating people? Okay, a lot of brands, especially with new age startups, they get lost in trends. Especially with social media, this has become unfortunately very common. Okay, but there is a very big difference between chasing trends and actually capitulating to them, and then understanding what you need to say to reach out to your audience and prime them so that they keep following your brand. Third, look at your mentions. Are you being cited, being referred to, or quoted, or are you just getting likes? Your referrals, your mentions in industry conversations, being used as example, these are high authority signals. This is why social listening tools are so important nowadays. If you want to understand where your brand stands in the market, go to social media platform where your audiences are active, and then listen. What are the conversations that are happening? Are they talking about you or not? When they are talking about you, what is it that they are saying? You have to understand what is your reputation in the market. Very, very important. If you have any proprietary frameworks, language, or models, we are not saying this is the only thing that you need to have, but the thing is, you have to create the terminology. Okay, this is a true mark of a leader. A true leader actually sets standards, and they guide the conversation everywhere. Okay, when you become the reference point, tomorrow if somebody says that, okay, I'm going to use this principle, and that principle is coming from you, then you have officially made it. Okay, you have become a point of reference. And would a buyer who has never met you feel confident recommending you internally? Okay. 76% of business leaders are very confident that they really understand their customers. 25% of customers say that that is the case. 75% customers say they don't agree with the leaders. Okay, so there is always a huge gap. And when it comes to this, you have to be very objective and not get defensive. World is changing, your customer is also changing, so you have to make sure that you don't take their trust for granted. You have to keep auditing yourself. Okay, and then score yourself. Okay, if you are scoring 4 to 5 for yes answers, you are building authority. 2 to 3, if you are scoring in that zone, then you are reputable but stuck, and below that you just have reach without boots. So you have to do a lot of homework.
Shruti, a lot of startups might feel that it is very big feat to achieve all this, but I want to say that start small, but do start. Build brick by brick, and it actually works out at the end of the day. While you are building your business, while you
True.
are trying to do things, don't try to chew more than what you can do. Go slow but steady, and keep on building your reputation and trust and authority one by one in a marketplace. Don't go too broad, don't go too fast, but this is something which has to be built if you are looking for long-term survival. So Uh,
True.
so that's what I want to say.
Yeah, see, building your brand is an investment. If you look at it from the point of view that this is cost or this is expense, then that's a wrong perspective to have. You have to invest in your brand's, the long-term brand building, and all these things matter there.
Yeah. So Shakti, a few days back, we acquired this new client, and none of this is there with them right now. They don't have any unique point of view,
True.
but they are chasing us that start our campaign, start our campaign, start our campaign. We are like, let us allow us to build some talking points, allow us to build something which people can connect with. Otherwise, just because you have a product and you have a website and you can sell it doesn't mean that you have a business, and it
True.
is certainly not a brand. So,
Yeah.
to become a brand, you need to do certain things. You need to at least be ready to welcome the customer. Otherwise, if you have no presence, no visibility, no authority, no trust, how will you do business? Just because we are running paid ads,
True.
that's no longer going to work. Visibility alone is no longer going to work.
True, you have to create the foundation first. And that, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand how important this foundation is. And we have covered this in many of our LinkedIn lives, that if you have a good foundation, you can tell your story, you have a good positioning, eventually you will find that you are spending less on campaigns and still sales are happening. So
Yeah,
this is important.
yeah,
Please don't neglect it.
yeah. And Shukti, that's a brand story and golden circle are very, very important. You need to think through. You need to think through. Especially when you're a new brand. You need to think through it. You have to have a unique
True.
proposition that customers sees finds valuable.
True. And I would say here that, see, from our experience, what we have seen, that brands that allow us the time to create that foundation, to actually study and diagnose their, you know, uh, dark spots, they always get better results eventually. So this is something which we have seen happen without exceptions, and we would say that all the brands out there, no matter what you are trying to do, give yourself time to build your foundation. The rest will happen, but be patient and actually invest your time and effort there. Okay, it matters a lot. So how do you do that? Okay, in our framework we start by auditing the authority. Okay, first you collect two sets of language. You pull your own website copy, your pitch decks from the sales materials, LinkedIn and all that. Okay, then you look at your buyer reviews, the referral language, the client feedback you're getting, and how people are talking about on social forums. Put them side by side and locate where the gaps are. Okay, map every touch point. Does this build trust or just authority? If across touch points you are not consistent, this will become a very, very big problem. Okay, and it has to have all the information there. For example, if you have a case study but you cannot name the client, you have no specific numbers, no clear before and after, then you're just talking to yourself, because none of the information that you're presenting is actually trustworthy for the audiences. Third, pinpoint your disconnects. Identify where your brand's voice has fallen behind the buyer's reality. If your brand does not sound relatable to your customers, they'll never buy from you, they'll never stick to you. Okay. Most brands are still leading with their history and credentials and awards, and which is important. Yes, this is important. But relatability, this is paramount. If you cannot be relatable and relevant to your audiences, your brand will collapse no matter how big you are. Okay, and then you create this gap map. Okay, you will have a clear picture of where your brand is sitting, and Understand in this reputation to authority spectrum which signals are missing. Do you have awards? Do you have reviews? Do you have client testimonials? Do you have testimonials from your employees? What is the social buzz about your brand? All of these have to be looked at and figure out where the gaps are, because then you can plug in those gaps. Okay? And build your authority stack. Okay? Number one, the point of view document. This is to be a very to the point, sharp kind of articulation of what you believe in, what you are against, why you exist beyond making money. You have to find your purpose. This becomes the spine of all communication. Okay? If you don't have this sorted out, you will fail. And remember this, a brand should evolve with time. A lot of brands, they are pretty conservative in nature. Problem is they don't want to evolve while the audience goes and becomes something completely new. So you have to make sure that you are continuously auditing yourself and you are matching that pace. Second, your proof architecture. Okay. You have to make sure that just having case studies or testimonials is not enough. You have to show the thinking, detailed approach to the problem, the diagnosis, the strategy, not just outcomes. The goal is for a prospect to read one and think, okay, this people understood the problem, they know how to tackle these things, these people can help me with my problem. So build that up as well. Third, your category presence. Okay. Getting your brand into conversations it isn't currently in. Look at where you can reach out to. Your industry publications, peer forums, third party review sites, speaking slots, and content that gets shared by people you haven't met. This is kind of the linchpin for building thought leadership. If you want to be seen as a leader, you have to be seen in the right places. Okay, so make yourself known, but before that, know what you are going to speak about when you actually gain entry into these spaces. Have your internal ideas, your position, everything sorted out so that you don't fumble when you actually get the stage.
Ashokti, these are some starting points. These documents, creation of these
True.
documents actually help you a lot in terms of educating your own people, getting ready. Okay, and this is actually the first step. This is actually the first step because this is what will guide you, drive your actions, and that's why it is important that you do it. You start from here.
True. Very true. This is just the starting point and you have to stay consistent. This is also very, very important.
Yeah, that is very important. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And the three moves that shift you from known to being trusted. Number one, sharpen your point of view, not just presence. Like I said,
Yep.
have a perspective in your industry. Don't just play it too safe. A lot of brands just don't want to go beyond their safe zone. They become boring, they become forgettable. And see, this is an old adage, a person who's friend to everyone is actually friend to no one. It holds true for businesses as well. Know your target audiences, stick to them. Okay, be ready to defend your position. In 2024, almost 70% of marketing budgets went to performance tactics. Okay, while long term brand investment dropped to just 30%. Okay, this is not healthy. You have to invest in your business, you have to make sure that your brand score is sorted out. Otherwise, what you'll do is you'll rent attention and it will keep getting more expensive with every year. Okay, understand this, experience leads to intellectual property. Your real experiences, patterns, lessons from working with real clients, your mistakes, the models that you have used, the language that you actually use and that audience can also actually use, all of these matter. Build your vocabulary around it, and all of this should feed into your long term brand strategy. Okay, this has left world's top 100 brands with at least $3.5 trillion in unrealized value because they have not tried to convert their real experience into intellectual property. Okay? Build proof that shows how you think. Look at case studies, explainers, guides, interviews, etc., and show how you approach a problem. The background or symptom, the diagnosis, the result, the strategy, the results. Follow this pattern and create content accordingly. Show people how you solve the problem, not just the results. Because when people actually see you working through it, they believe you more. Okay? So, know where to start and know what to do to build this up. That brings us to the end of this presentation, and I believe that we have a few questions. So Arnav is saying how to differentiate, no, how do you differentiate recognized brands hitting rock bottom like Nokia? What is the lesson to take? I think in case of Nokia specifically, the lesson to take here is when your target audience has evolved, when the market has evolved, you have to keep up. Okay, you are an authority brand in your field, but if you become complacent, you refuse to look at the changes that happen around you, then you will lose that position very, very fast. Okay,
Yep.
while technology was evolving and internet was getting everywhere and all the other brands were giving people a lot of technology to experiment and work with, Nokia kind of kept a very miserly kind of stand. It did not work out for them.
Yeah. Actually, Shruti, one more thing I want to say is that authority brands don't just build authority. They constantly keep on driving the market also. If you are the market
True.
leader and if you are the brand with most authority, then you have to play with it. You can't say that, okay, I'm the biggest brand in the market, but I will only sell what I sell. I will close my eyes to what is new happening. You should be the brand who is running experimentation in different directions. Okay, if you don't play experimentation, then what will happen? Okay, that's why it is very important that authority brands become market driving forces rather than driven by the market. And the driving market is going to be very, very important, and that comes with that thought level, that thought perspective, that thinking perspective, that you're constantly innovating, constantly thinking, constantly driving things. And so suppose you're a startup, you may not have that kind of bandwidth to do that, but whatever you are doing, whatever small efforts you are doing, show that class, show that perspective, that you are thinking, and that thinking comes from your product. So whatever you are launching, tell the world why you are doing it. That's a golden circle. And then when you start to build brick by brick, and there will be a stage where you start to become market driver. So don't become complacent, like Shakti said. Don't become complacent, and that's what Nokia did, and that's what many such brands did. That they were the biggest force in the market, and they became extremely complacent.
Yeah.
Companies that kill the market which is existing already by creating something new, they become the drivers. Look at Intel.
True.
Intel was the market driver. The world was moving towards mobile phones and all, and they were sitting with the laptop chips and all that, and then they're out of the business today. Look at Nvidia, $1 trillion. Okay, and Intel is no longer anything. Nobody is talking about them. So it is very important that you constantly keep doing things, keep driving things, and that's why there are a lot of brands who keep experimenting and they keep doing different things, and many of such ideas fail. But if you become complacent, okay, I'm doing this, I'm great, and you stay there, over.
True. Very true. Uh, Another example, I think, since we talked about Nokia, is HMV. The market was changing very fast. Technology, audio technology was evolving. They kind of could not adapt to it, and they're nowhere now. So an iconic brand like that, a household name, went out of business because they just got into that space where they were like, everything is fine. You cannot live in denial when you are living in an active market. The
One a
next,
great example, Shukti, is T series Shukti. They were very big in tapes and
yeah,
things like that. Okay, and the market started to shifting towards platforms like YouTube and all. Okay, people started to have the music on their phone, and they quickly created a very strong YouTube channel. They are one of the largest YouTube channel in the world, and they T series are one of the largest music libraries. And look at the kind of YouTube channel they have got, and they make ton of money there. They make ton of money there.
true.
Their cassette business is no longer there, but the way they have transformed their
They're
business,
making money. They're producing films and all. Yeah,
yeah,
they're transformed.
they've transformed completely. So it's not that it's not that that it is not leading brands are not doing it. There are both kind of stories, but I would say that experimentation, keeping your eye open, is a very important thing. You have to keep on trying various things, keep on looking at things, what is happening, where the market is driving. Just being confident, okay, I'm doing great, you will be out of the market very soon.
Sure. Yes, Avinash, that's very true. Next, let's take the next question. I think this will be the last one. How we can use influencer marketing for B2B businesses? Will it help build authority and trust? I would say completely depends on the kind of influencer you choose, whether they are, see, this is something which is evergreen and kind of applies to every brand, B2B, B2C. If you find an influencer who fits your brand, okay, more than follower count or reach, that is what matters. Secondly, if you have a clear goal in mind, then you choose the right influencer, and then it will help you. And it can help build authority and trust. It has to be a trustworthy figure. If you are choosing someone who does not align with your values, that will be a big miss. Secondly, you have to make sure that with the influencer you kind of have a long term association, in the sense they cannot just say good things about you, they cannot highlight your brand, and tomorrow they start talking about how great your competitor is. That is something which actually kills trust for the audiences.
Yeah.
So if you want to have that kind of a relationship with an influencer, have your goals clear, find a good fit, find someone who is authoritative even if they don't have that many followers and all, and then work accordingly. Okay,
I can give an example, Shukti.
set the tempo.
Look at example of Razorpay. Razorpay is a payment gateway. It's a leading payment gateway, and they what they did was this, that they tied up with lot of founders, successful founders, and these founders obviously have very strong visibility on social media platforms. So they tied up with them. These founders, the companies of these founders are actually working with Razorpay as a payment gateway, and they're using them. They're not only using them on social, they actually they went one notch above, and they took these the founders on their television ads also today. It's a great example, which is, I would say, it's a very thin line between celebrity and influencer there, and because these some of these founders are very famous. They're like celebrities. So that's an example, that how you fit the audience. And like Shukti said, specifically in a B2B scenario, don't look for followers just with the power of money.
True.
Just because these, in a B2B scenario, your influencers should not say that you are great just because you are paying them. They should say that you are great because they are using you, they are liking you, they believe in you, and they are going to continue to do business with you. Only then it makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Just
True.
by paying some money to somebody in a B2B scenario is not going to make lot of long term sense. Like Shukti said
True.
that today
Very true.
one of the B2B influencer is talking about brand X, and tomorrow they're talking about your competitor. That will be a disaster for actually both the brands, because the customer will understand what's
Yeah.
happening.
True, very true. So be careful with your choices and have a clear goal, and I'm sure that you can figure it out. And if not, obviously, we are there to help you. Okay. So I think that is the last question for today, and we are going to be back next week about something even something about a brand score. So yeah, we'll talk about it next week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.